that we're becoming more conscious of. The point is that we didn't know much about our energy bodies, until, I guess you could say, really the dawn of quantum physics, E equals mc squared, things like this, the notion of matter itself being interchangeable with energy, right? The idea that we are vibrating particles, like this was not known to humans. It was mystical, right? This was what the mystics spoke about. This was the paradoxes and whatnot of mysticism. And these were sort of hidden occult secrets that were made actually public. A lot of people still haven't fathomed really what that means, or how that affects our relationship to reality, because people are still stuck in 3D, right? We're in a universe, we're starting to understand quantum physics, and people are still sitting there going, oh, aliens and that stuff, that's so far out, portals, oh, that's so Yodio on acid. I mean, how stupid do you have to be at this point to not realize, like, the universe is much more magical, right, than people who are stuck in the 3D can fathom. But that's the problem, is that everyone is basically, I would say, on their path of where they're meant to go. And so there are those souls that are essentially, no matter what you try to do as far as determining the lowest common denominator or whatnot, it's like they're basically on a dharma that is not necessarily meant for the ascension. And that's what we have to come to terms with in this time period, is that there is this weeding out process. There is this splitting off process. There is this journey of many souls. And I think we've confronted a lot of them in our own families and our own reality recently, especially, who are literally adamantly ready to be roboticized, ready to be chipped, ready to basically be controlled, ready to surrender, because their version of control is not an organic. And what was said, Elena, when you were talking about control, really caught me, because I was thinking, there's an artificial notion of control that people can surrender to. And the artificial notion of control is what's considered like fascism or socialism, these sort of authoritarian structures, which can feel protective and it can feel like a proper control. But actually, organic control has an element of free will to it. It has the component of freedom to it. And it's an organic experience of control, because organic control is not full control. Organic control is more like it's like a negentropic, like in nature of the universe. It's like you have entropy, which is basically moving towards disorder and chaos, right? And we would say that, like, most of the universe seems to be entropic, right? It seems to be like we decay, we get older or whatnot. But actually, life itself is negentropic, because it's organizing in spite of all this chaos. Like, how is it, out of, as they said, like the possibility of humans, the possibility of humans occurring, or life occurring on a planet, is like a tornado coming and blowing the parts of a 747 into a 747 plane, right? Imagine like a tornado comes and blows that into, that's the kind of like negentropy, like creating order from complete chaos that it requires to actually create life. And so that's an organic experience of order. And there's a spirit involved, and there's a consciousness involved, there's a choice involved. And this is where we have to be very careful, I think, when it comes to like order versus chaos, because chaos is also a potent force, and it's an important force, because freedom is chaotic. Freedom is the spontaneity is chaotic. The ability to say, you know what, I'm intuiting, feeling not to go that way. That can be, oh, you're chaotic. You're going in the wrong direction. It's an important aspect of the human, of the living experience, right? Is that choice point. So I think that organic order is healthy, but at the same time, as we know, if we don't have chaos, we're in a fascist totalitarian system. It's like it's just, there's so much swirling, from, in terms of, it's too much to verbalize at the moment. But as there was something said to trigger the thought, everything goes back to the earth. And that's the whole beauty of this recycling, the nature of this earth. It does recycle. Some things take longer, as we know, some things are shorter, but it's like everything returns to the earth. And so it's always been this realization that we have to allow bad ideas, whatever bad, that we think like, oh, this is toxic, this is bad, like, let it run its course. It will ultimately come back to the earth. And as you were saying, I think Dan was saying, like, if it's not of love, ultimately, it's like it won't ultimately rise, right? It's like there are certain thresholds, and I think that I know we're entering a new threshold as we're talking about the Schumann resonance and whatnot rising. It's like there's a new threshold with where the earth is moving on the galactic plane. So as the vibration is increasing, we are feeling that, because we are of the earth, we're made of the earth. The sun, I think the solar activity, and as we know, like there's been, anyway, different bursts of periods of solar activity, like disappearing, right, and then acting up. I think the sun is playing a very critical role in actually triggering these earth changes, and actually like stirring up the earth, because in the process of the earth's awakening, our awakening, it all coexists with this ascension process. So that's why it goes back just like trusting that process to play itself out, letting the bad things, the things that are dissonant, they say bad, like ultimately it's just like more dissonant, less like more heavy, more dense, not as light, because ultimately that's what the ascension is about. It's becoming lighter. It's about being able to transmute more rapidly, processing things more with more love and forgiveness and all the things, the Christ concepts, right, of charity and mercy and all these concepts that were very like high ideals, being able to actually implement them more readily as we enter this time period, because we'll be more energetically attuned as opposed to dense earthly beings that are, caught up with getting revenge on their parent, their parent or whoever abused them as a child, physically, verbally, you name it, sexually, like all this abuse that's been going on in our psyches. It's like the more we can actually transmute that, all that, how do you say, that noise essentially that's keeping us back, rapidly transmuting that to then become more ascended, more light, more joyful, right, more present, and then body this new earth experiment. It's certain mythologies that keep coming back, right? And that's why it's like there's certain concepts of a fall, of this duality, this checkerboard duality, this how do you say, this separation of us from source, this God wound that we all have, right? The feeling of betrayal, separation, however you want to term it, your sense of abandonment. Everyone has some wound around this, this feeling, right? And then how do you say, like it's a thought experiment to me of this exploration of creating a human, and then playing with it, basically playing with genetics, interceding here and there, having a hidden hand come in and again pick up a puppet when you need it, right, to catalyze things, or to put the world at the precipice of destruction and then save, and then let it be saved, and see there with where we are now, as far as what's our choice as we become more aware. I would say, like, what to me is interesting is like this moment we talk about the New Ages, because we're all of a sudden more aware than ever before in the recent history. Not let's say Atlantis, but let's say like the post-Atlantean world. Since the times of maybe Egypt. Egypt is a different story. We actually might be in Egypt. This might be the thought experiment that Egypt is playing on us. But fundamentally, we're more conscious in the last few thousand years, right? Because collectively, we can actually connect across the planet now. We can exchange literature and texts across the planet. We have awareness of history that's planetary, and also galactic. Now that we're introducing galactic history, more alien channels are coming through more clearly. We're sharing this information more readily. This is only about 100, 200 years of, people like and others starting to actually bring up the Atlantean mythology for people en masse, right? I mean, so the point is that we are coming to this awareness because this is a choice point now. So it's been a few thousand years of a strong collective unconscious, a lot of unconsciousness amongst the human animal, becoming more aware of itself, but still more impulsive. All of a sudden coming to this choice point of, wow, wait, I can actually say no to this. Wait, I can say yes to that. Wait, I don't have to go to war anymore just because some tyrant told me to. Wait, I actually have a voice. I have a platform. I can be on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, True Social, any platform. And all of a sudden people listen to me and I affect hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. That's all of a sudden we are the media, that the old magicians were the media. And all of a sudden it's becoming us. So this is the choice point in the thought experiment as to where we go. Very just quickly, because I feel like I've said my last word for the most part, but I just want to add to that with Conspiracy Theory season 2, I believe, with Jesse Ventura, which was before I came on the show. I came on for season 3, but in season 2, I believe, he did an experiment with exactly that technology, the voice to skull stuff, and it showed you on, where Jesse was literally like hearing it. And he's like, where is that sound coming from? And they showed you that technology. And obviously, this is back when Jesse still believed in conspiracies and where he bought the statement.